Hello, dear learners. Welcome to teaching learning session of Sociology. Today we'll start with a new subject BSOE 142, Environmental Sociology. And in this we'll start with a unit 1, that is Environmental Sociology, Nature and Scope. Environment Sociology. Now, this term is a compound of two words, environment and sociology. As the name indicates, environment sociology, it is made up of two words. It's a compound of two words. That is, one word is environment, another is sociology. What is environment? Environment comprises a close interconnection between people, other living beings, land, water, air. All that is essential for physical life on earth. So environment is made up of it's an interconnection between the human beings, other living beings, whether it's animal, birds, lands, air, water, and all other essential things which are required for the physical life on the earth. That is environment. And what is sociology? Sociology is the systematic study of society we live in. Environment sociology. Environment is study of the environment and sociology is the systematic study of the society. Society, systematic study of society. What is society? It's about the people, it's about the groups, institutions, interaction between them, how people, institutions and groups interact with each other, and the resulting processes and structures in the society, all that is essential for a social life. So environment is study of the human beings, all living things, and then land, air, water, and sociology is the systematic study of society, that is interaction between the groups, between institutions, between the people, and which results in processes and structures in the society. Environment sociology is study of relations between the societies and their physical environment. So environment, what is environment? What is sociology? Now we understood this. Environment sociology is interaction between the human societies, between the society and their physical environment. These interaction at the interface of society and environment have reciprocal influence on each other. The society influences the environment and vice versa is also true. There is an impact of environment on our society. So these have reciprocal influence. These environment and society have reciprocal influence on each other. Environmental problems or concern emerged as a consequences of these interactions. As there is a, we discussed that they have a reciprocal influences, right? And the problems, environmental problems or the concern emerged as a consequences of these interactions. Because being a human society interact with the environment and exploits the environment for the betterment of the society, and this impacts the environment in a positive way or the negative way. And the environmental problem, and if it impacts in a negative way, it resulted in the environmental problem like water pollution, problems like air pollution, problems like smoke, that right. So environmental problems or concern emerges as a consequences of these interaction. When human society and environment interact with each other, then some problems splits up, and these environmental problems is a result of the interaction between the society and environment. Some of the environmental concerns being global climate change, soil degradation, declining biodiversity, ozone layer depletion, soil waste problem, pollution, acid rain, water scarcity, and many more. So this interaction impacts the environment drastically, right? And the consequences results in the form of soil degradation, ozone layer depletion, then acid rain, water scarcity, all are the results of the interaction between the society and the environment. Environmental problem is recognition of detrimental impact of industrialization, urbanization, and continuing globalization on the biophysical environment. Why and how this environmental problems crept up? It is because of the factors like industrialization, the factors like urbanization. We discussed the impact of urbanization. It resulted in development of the slums, and the living conditions of slums are very poor, right? And and this impact the environment because of this lack of sanitary facilities, lack of solid waste disposals. All these are the results of urbanization. When we dump our industrial waste in the environment, when we dump our industrial waste in water, this results in water pollution, or this results in the air pollution. So it impacts the environmental problem, right? And the continuing globalization also impact the physical environment. Emergence of environment sociology. How this subject, or how this has been emerged with the advance of industrialization, especially its rapid pace after the Second World War, led not only to the unsustainable encroachment on the natural environment, but even overexploitation through resources extraction and waste addition. After Second World War, even before Second World War, there was there was the process of industrialization and urbanization. But after Second World War, the cases of encroachment or unsustainable encroachment increases, right? And the people started extracting or explore. They started exploiting the more natural resources, right? And this resulted in the adverse impact on the environment. So basically, after Second World War, people started exploiting the natural resources, and then this term coined up. The term environment sociology was coined by Samuel Kloschner in his book on men in his environment in 1971. So the term environment sociology was coined by Samuel Kloschner in his book on men in his environment, which was published in 1971. 22nd April 1970 was celebrated as Earth Day 1970, a debut of modern environmental movement. 1970s was identified as environmental decade. So 1970s, people started thinking about the environment, the impact of human activities on environment. So 1970 this was the decade and it was identified as environmental decade, and people started thinking about the environment and how this environment and human society interaction impacted the um, environment. Prior to 1970s, American interest in environment was restricted to the rural sociology. Prior to 1970s, people think about the environment, but it was limited to the rural sociology with two-pronged interest in communities dependent on the nature for their livelihood and in parklands as wilderness area. So it was limited. This environmental study in sociology was limited to the rural area only. The sociologists just according to the sociologists, the environment was just how the communities in the village depends on the environment, on the nature for their livelihood, right? So they were just concerned about environment in that way only. In 1960s and 1970s turned out to be environmentally turbulent decade, socially, politically, and economically, which compelled the intellectuals and academicians to rethink their academic standpoints in terms of the environment. So 1960s and the 70s were the decades when people, the academicians, sociologists started thinking about the environment in another way. Riley Dunlap and William Catton, founders of the field of environmental sociology in US. So it was Riley Dunlap and William Catton. They are known as the founders of environmental sociology. Other key contributors to this field have made a distinction between sociology of environmental issues and environmental sociology. There are the two terms, sociology of environmental issues, and another term is environmental sociology, and these two terms are different. The academicians, researchers tried to explain the difference between these two terms, sociology of environmental issues, right, and environmental sociology. Sociology of environmental issue is what it is, the application of traditional sociological perspective on public opinion, social movement, and the formal organization to the topic, such as characteristics of environmental activities, the techniques and strategies employed by the environmental group. So, and sociology of environmental issues when the or when the government, when other organizations, right, and the when these other organization and social movements, it is concerned about the techniques and strategies to save the environment, right, by these groups. While environmental sociology focused on the study of environment, social society interaction. Environmental sociology is interaction, study of interaction between the society and environment. It is an underlying relationship between the modern industrial societies and the physical environment they inhabit, right? So these two terms are different. Environmental sociology is interaction between the society and the environment, and sociology of environment is it is about the strategies and techniques to implement the strategies and techniques about the environment. How can you save your environment, right? By 1970s, Love Canal became the most appealing environment tragedy in American history. It was identified as federal health emergency by US President Jimmy Carter. Love Canal, why it has become the health emergency in US because this place has been used as a dumping ground for the industrial waste, and this impacted the flora and fauna of that place, right? So it has become the most appealing environmental strategy in 1970s. That's why this 1970 is known as the environmental decade. US Congress passed the Comprehensive Environmental Response, Compensation and Liability Act in 1978, also known as Superfund Act, in response to such environmental hazard. After this, Love Canal incident, the US Congress passed CERCLA, that is Comprehensive Environmental Response, Compensation and Liability Act to cope up with such environmental hazard, because it was a big hazard. Environment become a political force to be reckoned with on the European continent through activist non-government organizations, green political parties, and environmental movements. Now, this in 1970s, this environmental become a political force. It has started impacting the politics of the, especially of the European continent, right? The non-government organizations started raising their voices about the environment, right? And various environmental movements started during this decade. In Britain, though initially the interest in environment tended to be theoretical, linking classical sociological perspective to the relationship between nature and society. By 1980s, due to the establishment of global environmental change program, empirical research in field of environment flourished. After the development of global environmental change program, because this interaction between the society and nature started impacting the nature or our environment drastically in a negative way. So in 1980s, a global environmental change program was established, and then actually the empirical research started in the field of environment. Unlike Britain, in Netherlands, research in environment sociology focused on the agriculture and risk assessment, thereby searching for practical solution to problem of inundation. See, in Britain, this environmental sociology is limited to a theoretical base, right? But in Netherlands, the research in this field, that is in environmental sociology, focused on the agriculture and the risk assessment. They started assessing the risk about assessing the risk of this environmental changes on the agriculture, and then they started searching for the solution, practical solution for these problems. Environmental sociology as a discipline established in 1990s in the East Japan and Korea. In Japan, research in the field of environment had begun in 1950s, subsequent to the identification of Minamata disease as the man-made environmental casualty. See, in Japan and Korea, although in 1990s it has started as a discipline, environmental sociology started as a discipline, but in 1950s, Japan started the research in field of environment. Why? Because of identification of Minamata disease. Minamata disease. What is the Minamata disease? Minamata is a disease that happens because of mercury oxide, right? Because of because the industrial waste has been dumped in the water bodies, and the fish, the flora, it has impacted the flora and fauna of that water bodies. And when human being consumes those fishes and other sea products, other water products, or the sea products, right? And this resulted in Minamata disease. In 1992, Japanese Association for Environmental Sociology was established, even though the Korean Association for Environmental Sociology was established in 2000. Researching and teaching of discipline of environment sociology began in early 90s in Korea. Mini matter disease is a neurological disease. It's a neurological syndrome caused by severe methyl mercury poisoning. Mini matter disease is caused by the daily consumption of large quantity of fish and shellfish, which are heavily contaminated with the methyl mercury. So, because of dumping of the industrial waste and other waste in the water bodies, it resulted in the uh, accumulation of methyl mercury in the water bodies and when it has impacted the flora and fauna of those water bodies, and when human being consumes those contaminated fish and seashell, it resulted in the mini matter disease, right? The first case of Minamata epidemic occurred in 1950s in the southern coastal area in Minamata Bay, Japan. And the second epidemic occurred in 1960s in the basin of Agano River, Japan. Minamata disease is caused by the environmental pollution due to industrial activity. Conceptualization of society environment relationship. Societal environmental interaction includes the way in which human actions in the society influences the environment, and the environment modified as a consequences of human actions influences the society reciprocally. So there is a relationship between the human society and the environment, right? The human actions in the society impacts the environment, and the environment and the modified environment uh, impacts the society reciprocally, right? As human activities, because of human activities, there is a rise of temperature, and now the environment rise of the temperature, and now we see that there is a because of rise of temperature the glaciers are melting down, and this is impacting the human society. First the human society actions impacted the environment, and then because of changes in the environmental condition, these environmental condition impacts the human society. So there is an influence of human actions on the environment, and environment impacts the human society. This relationship also includes the manner in which such interactions are socially constructed and acted upon. The human ecology model was given by Robert E. Park in 1920s, and he borrowed the principles for this model from Charles Darwin biophysical environment. Park derives his understanding of the interrelations and interdependence between the plants and animals in nature, and related it to interrelation and interdependence between individual and communities in human society. He explained a web of life. What is the web of life? Web of life is a succession of organisms and biophysical environment that are linked to each other through transfer of energy and nutrients. He explained it by establishing a biotic balance or ecological balance, that is state of equilibrium in natural system. According to Park, a state of equilibrium and biotic system or the natural system is required, and each and every thing in this biotic system depends on each other for the nutrients, for the energy, and there is a state of equilibrium is required. He uses the metaphor of biotic balance to explain social equilibrium in human society. The key principle of web of life is competition and struggle for survival, processes which disrupts the equilibrium established in nature and society. He used the principle of the Charles Darwin, that is the survival of the fittest, that the or that the people and the other organisms in this environment compete with each other, and those who are fit can survive. So he used the principle of web of life. He used this principle in web of life, that is the principle of competition and struggle of the survival, right? The disruption is overcome by the survivors finding their niche in physical, social environment, and also through the division of labor among different species in ecosystem or categories of people in this society. So people and other organisms compete with each other, and those who are fit can survive. And this the survivors find their niche in the physical or the social environment. And through division of labor among the different species in ecosystem, that there is a division of labor in ecosystem, the categories of the people in the society survive. In human society, the disequilibrium is usually due to the famine, diseases, war, excessive urban development, and industrial pollution, which artificially breaks the chain of web of life in social environment. Factors like war, factors like drought, factors like diseases and excessive urban development or industrialization, right? These factors breaks the chain of web of life. This results in the disequilibrium. Park believed that such changes had the capacity to give a new and often superior direction to the future course of event, forcing adaptation, change, and new equilibrium. According to Force, these changes give rise or give a way to a new equilibrium. People and the environment adapt according to the changing environment, and those who are able to adapt according to the changes can survive. And this gives rise to a new equilibrium. Even though Park identified similarities between the physical environment and human society, yet he acknowledges the difference between the human ecology and biophysical ecology. According to him, the main difference lies in the fact that human society is organized at the two levels, biotic and the cultural, whereas the natural environment is organized another two set of levels, that is biotic and abiotic. Park compared and contrasted the human society with natural environment, right? According to Park, like in environment, like in natural environment, people compete with each other for the survival. In the human society, people compete with each other because of scarcity of the resources, and those who are better can survive, right? But then again, by he said that there is a difference between the natural environment and the human society. Human society is organized at the two levels, that is biotic at the biotic level, yes, definitely at biotic level, and at the cultural level, while the natural environment is organized at biotic and abiotic level. Culture and its attendant features plays a significant role, not only in distinguishing society from physical environment, but also becomes the context of human mastery over nature and setting in motion the ecological depredations. Society environment interactions. One of the best One of the best definition of society environment interaction is W. Cotton and R. Dunlap's model, the three competing functions of the environment, which serves the human society. Cotton and Dunlap has given the three competing functions. They have given a model named the three competing functions of the environment. and this serves the human society. What is this model? Three competing. The name of the model is three competing forces. The first force is the environment provides the sustenance base or act as a supply depot for human society. According to Cotton and Dunlop, the environment provides the sustenance base for the human society. They act as a supply depot for human society. Human needs air, water, food, fuel, forest, manufacture many other articles for consumptions for their sustenance, and the nature provides these factors or these products to the human beings. Environment is the source of all these renewable and the non-renewable natural resources. However, when we use resources faster than the environment can supply them, we create a resource shortage or scarcity. So the first is for humans, for the sustenance of human society, human being needs land, air, water, and other resources, and environment provides these resources, whether renewable resources or non-renewable resources. But when human society or human being consumes resources more or exploits the resources more, then it results in the scarcity of those resources. The second factor is environment provides the living space or habitat for human society to exist. It provides us with a home, workspace, playgrounds, travel, and transportation systems. In other words, all essential of our daily life. But the overuse of this function results in overcrowding and congestions. It also impinges on the ability of environment to sustain other species, right? The second factor is that human being needs the living spaces, right? And the environment provides us the living spaces. But when we overuse these spaces, like land is that the geographical area is limited, but when we overuse these resources, this results in overcrowding and the congestion. Then we start uh, cutting the forest and using the forest lands for the dwelling of human beings, and this creates an imbalance in natural environment, right? And so this creates a problem for the sustenance of other species in environment. The third factor is the environment also function as a sink or waste repository. In the process of living and consuming the various resources provided by the environment, human produces a vast quantity and varieties of waste products, and the environment then acts as a sink or the waste repositories for these wastes, either absorbing or recycling them. Modern society, which are densely populated, generate more waste than the environment can absorb or cycle. See, environment has capacity to absorb the waste or recycle the waste, but when the societies generate more waste than the capacity of the environment, which the environment can absorb or recycle, this results in the pollution and other environmental problems, right? Pollutions like this results in the pollutions like air pollution, water pollution, land pollution, and other types of problems. With the advancement of civilization, each of the three functions of the environment compete for the space to expand their activities. There are the three functions of the environment according to Dunlap and Cotton, but with the advancement of the civilization, the three functions of environment compete for the space to expand their activities. First, it provides the substances for the sustenance of human being. Then it provides the living spaces. The second function is, and the third function is, it acts as a wastage repositories. But with the development of the civilization and increased activities of human beings, these functions compete with each other for the space. And such competition is especially obvious in conflict between the living space and the waste repositories functions. Using an area for waste site usually makes it unsuitable for living. And then these that there is a competition basically between the living spaces and the waste repositories, and the areas which we use as a waste sites are usually not suitable for living. Increased urbanization creates more living spaces for people, but land can no longer be used as a sustenance base for human or wildlife. In recent years, competition and conflict among the three competing functions of environment has grown considerably. Then there is a competition between these three forces, and it has and this has grown considerably in recent years. This competition has grown considerably. When human societies overuse their biophysical environment's ability to fulfill these three functions, the environmental problems in the form of pollution, resource scarcity, and overpopulations result. When the human society exploits the resources or the exploits the biophysical environment, then this results in the problems like pollution, like resource scarcity, and the overpopulation, and it creates a problem for the human society as well as for the biosphere. Society environment direct. With the increase in environmental problems coming to the public attention in 1970s, a need to examine the structural relationship between societal organization and physical environment came to fore in discipline of environmental sociology. As in 1970s was a decade of environment, right? Because of increase of environmental problem, now human beings started thinking about the environment, right? The environment, then this environment sociology come as a discipline. A groundbreaking study by Alan Schenberg, Social Synthesis of Societal Environment Dialects, the role of distributional impacts in 1975. This study addresses the issues led to an understanding of a dialectical relationship between the society and environment due to modern industrial societies excessive extra active demands from the natural surroundings and the consequent environmental degradation which followed. This study by Alan Schenberg, it addresses the issue of over exploitation of natural resources because of overuse or because of extra activities of a human society, and the exploitation of natural resources or the surroundings resulted in the environmental degradation. It is this relationship of reciprocal influences between the society and environment that this approach examines. And this focuses on economic expansion of societies necessarily required increased environmental extractions. Because of economic expansions, people overutilize human society, overutilize the environmental resources, right? It increases the environmental extractions. And then increased level of environmental extraction inevitably lead to ecological problems ranging from disorganization of natural biotic system to depletion of fixed resources. Because of exploitation of these resources, it results in the ecological problems, various types of ecological problems like the disorganization of natural biotic system, or because of other problems like pollutions and others. These ecological problems possess potential restriction on further economic expansion. So these are the three factors of these studies. These are the three things of these studies. Alan Schenberg in 1975 outlined the nature of contradictory relations between the imperative of economic development and economic degradation. So, according to Schenberg, there is a contradictory relations between the imperatives of economic development and environmental degradation. This means that a complex industrial society requires to continually expand its economic system by generating more demands, even when the ecosystem has reached its physical limits to growth and even exceed it, can no longer sustain it. He identifies a direct tension between the demands for increased economic expansion and environmental protection during the process of policy formation in advanced industrial society. So according to him, that there is a requirement for the policy formation about the increased economic expansion and environmental protections. In such a scenario, the state needs to increasingly balance its dual role as a promoter of economic development and an environmental regulator. According to him, both activities are important, that is, economic development is important, and at the same time, the environmental protection is required, and government should act as a mediator or act plays a role in the economic development as well as a should play as a role of an economic protector. But the government got in contradictory position. Different governments take a various position in balancing acts. And the society environment dialect has been further examined and taken forward analytically by Alan Schenberg through treadmill of production approach in his book The Environment from Surplus to Scarcity in 1980s. According to him, the government should play an important role between the development of the economic development and the environment sustenance, and then it depends, the government takes the various positions that depends on the conditions of the society as well as requirements of the government. The environmental predicaments. The environmental predicaments, the reciprocal influences of modern industrial society and environment and vice versa, has led many environmentalists and environmental sociologists to pay close attention to potential challenges to the sustainability. Awareness about the different kinds of environment problem and the extent to which our well-being of society are being impacted by them needs to be examined. So now people started thinking about the impact of human activities on environment, and they started thinking about how they started spreading the awareness about the act of human activities on the environment, right? Global warming. These overutilization of the resource or extra activities of um, these human activities resulted in various type of problems, and one of those problem is global warming. Global warming is a consequence of rapid increase in carbon dioxide in the earth's atmosphere by burning the fossil fuels, woods, and the forest land. This buildup of CO2 in Earth's atmosphere, that is buildup of carbon dioxide in the Earth's atmosphere, traps the sun's heat, increasingly raising the temperature of the Earth, and this is known as the greenhouse effect. Carbon dioxide accounts for only about half of the human-induced climate change. Global, why there is an increase in the temperature, why there is a global warming, because of increase industrial activities, right? This These activities releases carbon dioxide, and carbon dioxide, when there is more carbon dioxide in the Earth's atmosphere, and these carbon dioxide traps the sun's heat, and this results in the increase of the temperature, and this is known as the greenhouse effect. And the carbon dioxide accounts for about half of the human induced climate change. Other greenhouse gases like methane, nitrous oxide, chlorofluorocarbons, ozone, or black carbon released by various processes of human activity contribute as much as or even more process of global warming. And these carbon dioxide, apart from carbon dioxide, there are various other gases which are released by the various human activities, and these gases are also responsible for the global warming, right? Some of the glaring consequences of global warming that impacts our lives are the hot summers, droughts, melting glaciers, rising sea levels, change in rainfall patterns and weather conditions, increasing forest fire, increase in number and varieties of diseases unknown until now, and many more known and unknown consequences. Another is ozone depletion. It is a result of extra activity, extra human activity. Ozone depletion. What is ozone? Ozone forms a vital layer in the upper atmosphere, which protect the life on the Earth's surface from harmful effect of the sun's ultraviolet radiation. So this ozone layer, this is a layer on the topmost on the this is important layer, and this layer protect the Earth's surface from dangerous ultraviolet radiation, which is emitted by the sun. And exposure to ultraviolet radiation can causes the skin cancer, cataracts in eyes, damage to immune system, and disruptions in the ecosystem. Ozone layer forms a protective covering in the upper atmosphere for all life forms living on the Earth. The chlorofluorocarbon generated through refrigerators, which are used as a coolants in refrigerators, air conditions, cars, etc. Fire suppression system in aircraft, and aerosols and other pollutants escapes into the upper atmosphere and comprises the integrity of ozone layer. Ozone layer protects us from the dangerous ultraviolet radiations which is emitted by the sun, but extra human activities, that is when we use chlorofluorocarbon, this chlorofluorocarbon gas is used in refrigerator, in air conditions, and in aircrafts, aerosols. These chlorofluorocarbons, these gases escapes to the upper atmosphere, and this impacts the ozone layer. Of the integrate This impacts the ozone layer, and because of these there is a massive depletion of ozone layer. right? As discovered by scientists in 1985 over the South Pole, leads to creation of ozone hole, and this resulted in a ozone hole. And scientists discovered this ozone hole in 1985 over the South Pole. The depletion of ozone layer is also found over the North Pole, but in smaller extent. Most worrisome is that the area of high depletion might spread to heavily populated area, leading to harmful consequences of exposure to ultraviolet light and radiation. Obviously, right? This depletion is high over the heavily populated area because of the more human activities. Another problem is smoke, and smoke is a consequence of air pollution. Petrochemical smoke or the brown smoke is found in all cities of the world as a brown haze. The key component of petrochemical smoke is ozone. Ground level ozone is formed when sunlight comes in contact with polluted air on the Earth's atmosphere, and the fossil fuel combustion, cars and factories discharge a large volume of nitrogen oxide compounds, and these compounds react with volatile organic compounds in presence of sunlight to form a petrochemical smog or the brown haze. These fuel combustion, when the sunlight comes in contact with polluted air, it is responsible for the formation of smoke. And ozone is the upper atmosphere is crucial in preserving life form on the earth. We just discussed it. But its presence on the earth is inhabited. Parts are harmful to all life. It burns the lung tissues in human and animals during inhalation and leaf tissues of plants. It impacts human beings, it impacts animals as well as the plants. When it drifts out of the urban area into countryside, it reduces the crop yields and damages the forest. When smoke comprises of a white smoke, the another type of a smoke is white smoke, and the white smoke comprises of the fine particulates of in the air. These particles are microscopic, which deeply penetrates in the lung tissues. Half of these particulates are primarily dust, released as a result of poor fuel combustion, construction, outdoor burning, and wind erosion from the farms. And rest of the fine particulates comprises of tiny pieces of droplets of sulfates, nitrates, ammonium compound, and volatile organic compound known as secondary particulates. And this forms a white smoke, and it impacts human being, it impacts animals as well as plants. Another problem is acid rain. Acid rain results when the sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide emission on the earth combines with water in the atmosphere. Acid rain directly damages the plant tissues, leaching of nutrients from the soil, leading to decrease in crop production, acidification of water bodies. These are few of the problems associated with the environment because of the extra human activities. So it is very important for the sustenance of human society and all other organisms that there should be a balance between the environment and the human activities. We will discuss about this in our next lecture. Thank you very much. Namaskar.